Looking to have an uninterrupted electricity and water supply from solar energy in the Gambia and beyond? Worry no more, because Solar Enterprise will provide you with the solutions at reasonable cost. We have experienced personnel who can install and advise you about your electricity and water supply with a warranty period. We have good quality solar products from North America and Europe. We provide services and sell products to individuals, organizations, institutions, private offices, communities, and government. These products are solar panels, batteries, charge controllers, inverters, water pump, water heaters, freezers, submersible pumps, and general solar accessories. Visit our stores at 48 Karaba Avenue and Brusubi Highway, or you can call us on 7657 479 980 8483 340 9400 or 635-9906.
Jamano Money Transfer Bureau de Change, your go-to option when it comes to money transfer. With Jamano, you can send money from anywhere in the world to your family and loved ones in the Gambia and be sure the funds will be delivered to them within the shortest time possible. For your convenience, funds sent through Jamano Money Transfer can be picked from all the banks and multiple other financial institutions, including Ajib Bank, Trust Bank, GT Bank, Mega Bank, Basic Bank, Reliance Financial Services, and Approved Services. Visit our head office at Brusubi opposite AfricMed next to Trust Bank Limited, or email us at info@jamanomt.com. You can as well call us on 310-3050 or 310-3051, or yet still 733-0688. Our opening hours are 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Saturday and 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Sunday. Jamano Money Transfer, your most trusted money transfer service where customer satisfaction is paramount. When you think of a simple, fast, and reliable money transfer, think Jamano Money Transfer.
Agada.
Mbijan aganyani.
Albaka.
Mbaka important.
Yo, nga transfer la sto.
Ya transfer la sto.
Ha, code nyingi.
Okay. Korsa. Nsila ID soto.
Sa soto. Sorry. Agada.
Mbijan bro.
Albaka.
Mbaka.
Bara alla service o tariya. Mbale ki janna nun kunu bara tariya.
Jannom yona forest de bureau. Gambia tonkon na no mbali ya bere. Birin koyna fo katon.
Bari si kodo kino katon nim fo bolong blabe to.
56 branches mola soto Gambia jang.
Ha?
Gambia kono anin Gambia e bantala bankol. Nko kodo kiya bere. Kodo sifa fo palindiro fo nyaadi lafta même na kodi to poto nin kodi maraw. Jannom number 1 ti nyonta. Andum fana nata anoda enterprise sotale. Wolam nyindi ko domorol fana kol fana be firale de dadi ma nin domorol ni fana beteat. Gambia dawda yalo ngam fa kendol sotale je.
Wo moyo diat.
Apelenta
baraka. Ni ma lafta nyelan kendol e bina.
Yalo bukani la ko la baraka ba.
Yalo ndel chosano lo.
Baraka.
Islamic microfinance is becoming an increasingly popular mechanism for poverty alleviation, especially for developing countries around the world. This microfinance service adheres to the principles of Islam as a form of social responsibility. Yona Islamic Microfinance is the Islamic microfinance of choice in the Gambia, trustworthy and reliable. At Yona Islamic Microfinance, we provide savings products, current accounts, financing products in conformity with Islam. In addition, Yona Islamic Microfinance also offers local and international remittances, takaful fund, management of zakat, management of awqaf, trading and investment, and building of strategic partnerships to bring financial services to the doorstep of the poor with donor projects, madrasas, youth organizations, women groups, and farmer organizations. Make a choice with Yona Islamic Microfinance today. For more information on Yona Islamic Microfinance, call 377-2151 or 9832-151 or visit Yona head office at Tipa Garage, Bakote, or visit any Yona branch located countrywide near you.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Brunch on Kepatu Live. I'm Lamin Dibba, and this is our weekly look at current affairs over the last week. This week, the budget. The budget has now been officially presented to the National Assembly. With me in the studio are three gentlemen with whom we will try to make sense of what we have on the budget. Plus, more ministers have been at Parliament, not just about the budget. The Minister of Interior has been there, and when he was asked about security matters, particularly policing, he lamented that they don't have enough to give to the police when it comes to logistics and even accommodation. We will discuss all that. Plus, the UDP once again lost a lawsuit in the Supreme Court. We ask, was it because of lack of preparation, or was the Supreme Court again dodging the contentious issue by using technicalities to avoid decision? With me is Dodou Jah of the APRC. I have economist and expert in budgetary matters, Lamin Dibba, was with us last time when the estimates were presented, and Demba Jawo, veteran journalist. But I have to tell you, and maybe that will might be news to even my panelists, that the second part of the program will be with the Minister of Finance, Seedy Keita. So if you have any question for Seedy Keita, you are watching, then please stay around for the second part of the brunch when we will have Seedy Keita to hear from the horse's mouth himself. If you have questions, you can put them in the comment box, and Mr. Keita will definitely answer them, hopefully. So, Dodou Jah, you listened to the budget. Even when the estimates were presented, a lot of debates, came that we are paying $11 billion into loans. There's going to be a salary increase. And, in fact, there were procedural problems. I mean, the MP said the agreement or the amendment in the Constitution required the minister to bring it 6 months or 6 weeks or 2 weeks, 6 months before.
60 days.
So that the parliamentarians, 6 weeks again.
I think 60 days.
Yeah, 60 days. So that the parliamentarians can familiarize themselves. But that didn't happen. They want the minister to explain. He eventually had to apologize, even though he thought that wasn't necessary. Now, Friday, he came out with the real budget, this time saying 47 billion, little above that is what they intend to spend. What are your takes from there?
Thank you very much, Mr. Shah, for having me in the brunch.
Thank you.
And say big greetings to my co-panelists here, the Jawo, Mr. Dibba here for the first time sharing this platform, and greetings to the viewers out there. It's really important because the budget determines so many factors and issues in our country. And I think every year the type of budget we have, it's more of recurrent. I'm not seeing much innovations when it comes to the budgets that is being brought in. It's just like the figures being adjusted and they bring it back. But when it comes to expenditure-wise, the realistic aspects of it, it's yet to be determined. What mechanism are we using? For example, when it comes to the budget for security, what is being allocated, how has it been spent? Besides the National Audit Office doing that type of job, but what are the practicalities on the ground? And the reason I am saying so is, if you look at administrative costs, it's what they focus on more compared to when it comes to service delivery. So that needs to be looked at thoroughly. Now, again, projecting this budget, looking at expenditure, how much can we afford in order to spend? It's always a challenge. We're not meeting that requirement. And another factor we need to look in is our debt, which keeps increasing year by year. What plans do we have for it? Because in the long run, it could create havoc within the economy. The economy you're trying to build, you're trying to make better in order to serve Gambians. But if you don't take good care of it, when it crashes, everything could crumble and go into pieces. I think that alarm have been sounded by the minister himself when he mentioned about financial distress. So what we need to do is we need a realistic budget, a spending capacity that will be able to afford. We can't continue to depend on grants and loans. There are no guarantees on board. Grants, at times what you expect, in most cases, you are not getting it all. And what is coming, a lot of strings attached, most of them. And even these strings could be detrimental to your economy itself. Now, when it comes to loan, we all know the status quo as far as it is concerned. I think moving on, other issues would come, what we need to do in order to meet up challenges when it comes to this budget, the economy and taxes there. But I would want to end by saying we need to change the mindset we have by accepting that Gambia is a tax-based economy. I think unless and until we shift from that, we'll be able to be more productive, more efficient in so many areas when it comes to government itself generating force. The resources are there. We're not exploring and tapping it in order to boost our financial muscle in supporting these budgets that are coming to Parliament. But we're so much reliant on loan and grants, which is very detrimental to the financial status of this country.
Some people suggest perhaps if we cut our expenditure, some people believe we are spending wastefully. Perhaps we may be able to, we may be able to make savings so that we can, as you said, you fear, a lot of money goes to recurrent, that is to sustain the people who are in power, elected or appointed, or operational cost of it. Some people said the best way to avoid these loans and stuff like that is perhaps we cut what they describe as wasteful expenses. Perhaps if we do that, we can avoid loans, we will make savings and can be able to invest that in development.
Yes, I quite agree, and it's a brilliant idea. That's why I've made mention of administrative costs. Now, looking into mobility alone, the type of cars that we drive does not reflect with the status quo when it comes to our budget. It's like we don't have any, but administratively, the mobilities we have, even people in more advanced countries, they're not owning or even having access to such. It is not happening with them. And that becomes a big challenge. Look at the example of the OIC, an event which was supposed to create a transformation in this country. But how much have we spent in purchasing vehicles alone? It would have been more wise that we have companies that are dealing in the rental of cars. Either you lease it, you rent it, it will cost you less to serve the purpose of the conference. Now, much of those funds that were spent into buying these expensive vehicles could have been used even to pay debts that the country is owing when it comes to these loans. There are a lot of sectors that could have been supported when millions would have been saved. Now, cutting down costs is high time. Looking into the debt the country is owing. We cannot keep increasing administrative costs or making it more lucrative to the detriment of affecting our reserve, to the detriment of affecting the budgets that we're bringing, which are not realistic as far as our financial expenditures are concerned. That without doubt, there should be a cost. I, for one, always say, I don't see the need that from your office, from your house to your office, you need SUV vehicles to take you to work and bring you back home. No, these are things that is part of luxurious life. If you can afford it, yes. Let it be through your earnings. If you want to take loans to buy this SUV for your own personal service, yes. But government vehicles especially should be looked at. What is viable enough for your movement, for your mobility, and within restricted times. If it is meant for work, it should specifically be reserved for that. But we see family members are using it outside working hours. These vehicles are roaming around. So these are all issues that if it is properly managed and controlled, it will help in cutting down costs, and it will again empower the budgetary aspect that we have. And tax, again, like I said, let's move away from tax-based economy, because what it would create is it could help the government in raising funds or finances in order to support or implement their projects. But you're doing it to give back to the people. But on the other hand, the people are going to have a lot of challenges due to inflation that we are already suffering. Now, looking into this budget, what they are presenting before all of us, they don't have the money. What are the mechanisms that they are going to use? Are they going to increase tax again? That's a question that they
said they are not. They rather they will increase the tax base. They believe that there are areas that have not been taxed before, but that's those areas. That's the catchment now. They want to enlarge the catchment.
What if that is not achieved? This should be the question. You should always have plan B, but we hardly hear they present to us plan B. Mostly what is presentable is what they will be able to defend. Is it sustainable?
Yeah.
I doubt. As the mechanisms they are using, I don't see sustainability in it. You're talking about salary increment, you're talking about building more roads, you're talking about a lot of things, projecting, and we're heading to election year. When this type of projects and promises must or has to be fulfilled, it will become very challenging.
Good point. Mr. Dibba, last time we were here, it was just an estimate. This time it's the real budget. Although we didn't quite see tangibly the ones that have been cut, but the minister said 47 point something billion, and you heard him say that he said recurrent expenditure and investments and subsidies and all stuff like salary increments. You had all that, debt servicing, you had all that. Now, what sort of budget do you think the minister presented, and what should be our reaction?
Thank you very much, Mr. Cham. It's good to be here for the second time, and thank you to Kerfatu for the invitation, much appreciated. Back to your question, the budget, more or less, it's the same. Yeah, actually, it's still 52.98 billion, and what they did basically was just move around funds, make budget cuts. The National Assembly, during the budget amendments and approval, what they basically did was make cuts from certain budget lines or from certain budget entities, and then adding them to other budget entities and other budget lines. But the budget, the government local fund, is still 37.8 billion. It hasn't actually increased or decreased. And also the grants components are still the same, the loan also the same. What they basically did was just move funds. So the budget is still the same. Now, in the budget speech, what they are talking about, there is a title for the budget speech. And I quote, it's basically bolstering economic growth, reducing vulnerabilities, and then ensuring fiscal sustainability. So these are three components actually. The first component is bolstering economic growth. That's basically strengthening or improving the economy and making sure that domestic production is enhanced and increased. Now, if you look at that, in the budget speech also, the minister mentioned that in 2025, economic growth is expected to be 5.9%. And then in 2023, it was 4.8%, 2024, 5.8%. It's increasing. That's basically what I'm trying to say here. But now, these are in percentages. If they were in actual real numbers, you would know by how much they're increasing, but they are in percentages. Now, the thing about percentages is that, let's say, 5.9% of 1 billion is different from 5.9% of 80 billion, right? So, yes. And then now, these percentages, what we are talking about are two things in play here. Real GDP, real gross domestic product. That looks at actual increase in the quantity of goods and services that are produced within, final goods and services that are produced within the economy, and the nominal GDP. So, based on the budget speech, it seemed nominal. Yes, that looks at the current prices. Basically, there are definitions. Nominal GDP is it measures production, the total value of production within the economy at current market prices, right? Real GDP, real gross domestic product, measures total production at constant market. So basically what is happening, constant market prices. What is happening here is the maintaining of the prices, inflation. But basically this growth is expected to be nominal. That is, it takes inflation into account. That means it's looking at the current market prices. And then economic growth basically is expected to be, they've given two numbers, 200 billion, 197 billion. They're saying it's expected to, but now real economic growth is the key thing that people look at. And that real economic growth is around 81 billion, when nominal GDP, nominal economic growth, is around 197 billion. The real economic growth is not even half of nominal economic growth. So what the people need to focus on, and what the budget speech is showing, is actually nominal GDP growth. And for a country that is facing extreme inflation, nominal GDP growth might be misleading to the people. Real GDP growth is the thing that we look at, because it is going to tell you by how much the quantity, the total value of the quantity of goods and services produced, by how much that is increasing in real term. Not, it can be 10,000, it could have been 10 million, or let's say 10 billion last year, and then the price was, let's say for example 5, right? And then this year it's still 10 billion, the price is 7. It's going to increase. Absolutely. But it's in nominal term. So the real term is what we should be focused on, and it's not significant. So economic growth at this point for the Gambia has always been that it is increasing most of the time, but it is insignificant economic growth. Yes. You compare it.
Meaning, for the layman, the figures they are quoting in terms of growth is not reflected in their everyday life.
It's not reflecting, because they're talking about the nominal figures. They are supposed to talk about the real figures. Those are the things that, because those are the real things. It's like shoe production increasing from 2 pairs of shoes to 10 pairs of shoes, so that 10 people can wear the pairs, right? Instead of 1. So that's basically it. So real is very important. The second part is reducing vulnerabilities. The issue with reducing vulnerabilities is when you analyze things, what you see is basically the minister during answering the questions National Assembly members raised during the debate, said that crowding out. So it was so strange to me that he shrugged it off. Like, it's crowding out. No, crowding out of the private sector. You know what crowding out means? Crowding out means that the government is borrowing to an extent. For example, if in an economy, it's 5 billion for everyone. Private sector, government sector. And the government is borrowing 4 billion. How much is left for the private sector? 1 billion. Now, if the government is borrowing 5 billion, how much is left for the private sector? Zero. Now, if 0 is left for the private sector, what do you think is going to happen to importers, domestic producers that are trying to obtain credit from banks to import? They will, the thing about developing countries is not even theoretical economics, and let's say economics based on developed countries is usually what they look at is interest rates, lending rates increasing. That's what they are worried about, because the financial markets are well developed, that credit will be available, except the question is at what interest rate will it be available. But for developing countries, mostly it is the availability of credit that we worry about. And the government is going to borrow 5.74 billion from the domestic economy. That is going to create two things. It's going to be, of course, most of the time it's these big businesses that are buying T-bills and bonds, right? Government borrowing is usually guaranteed. Lenders, the problem they have is, am I going to get back my money and my interest? They worry about that a lot. That's why in the lending rate, they include risk premium. But the government is not risky. So if the government is not risky, the risk premium will go down, right? Meaning the government's lending rate is highly likely to be lower than a private sector investor or a producer who is not as secure, who doesn't have as much collateral as the government, right? So if the government is competing with the private sector domestically, that is going to crowd out. This is what we call
That's
crowding
what they told
out.
him, yes.
This is going to crowd out the private sector investors and producers. But now, you know, the thing is, the reason it seemed so simple, so applicable, so doable was that is because there is competition or there is negligence from the government towards the private sector. And you cannot develop the economy alone as government. You have to work with the private sector to develop the economy. So what you do is you serve the interest of the private sector as much as you serve your own interest. It's not about the government against the private sector. It's about the government collaborating with the private sector to work and then produce domestically and improve the economy. But that's not happening. So there is this sort of competition. Domestic borrowing is increasing by 75.5%, Mr. Cham. And external borrowing, which will help alleviate the domestic borrowing, is decreasing by 35.5%. It's like full-on war towards the private sector, it seems. You know? We have to speak for the private sector, honestly. They need funds, they need credit to produce, to import.
Yeah.
You know, we need to support them. Now that's the second part. The third part is ensuring fiscal sustainability. I'm actually speaking from these titles. This title,
you talk
the
about.
three components of it. So, ensuring fiscal sustainability. Now, I'm gonna start with the debt service. Please remind me if I forget this debt service, and then the deficit. Two things I'm gonna talk about. Debt service, 11 billion, right? Now, the minister during the budget speech talked about the debt to GDP ratio, 63% for 2024. Debt to GDP ratio.
Yes.
And then now there are two figures. You know, we have problem with government estimations. Sometimes what is in the budget speech is different from what is in the estimates. The budget speech, in the annex component of the budget speech, you have the nominal GDP for 2024, 173.7 billion. Sorry, 173.4 billion. And then 2025 projections, 2025, 197.7 billion. But then the estimates will give you 174.8 billion. And then for 2024, 2025 will be 200 billion. Which one is it? Which nominal GDP are we to look at? But either way, what is happening is debt to GDP ratio, 63%, is around 110 billion, 109 to 110 billion for 2024. That means our public debt by the end of 2024 would be 110 billion, right? Now, our public debt by the end of 2025 will be around 124 to 126 billion. Depending on these figures that I have mentioned, if you do the calculations, they will be around there. Now, what is happening here is this: by the end of 2025, 124 to 120, let's say 124 billion, right? It is going to increase. The public debt will increase by at least 15 billion. Now, what we are saying is we want, by the end of 2024, we will reduce the, by the end of 2024, it will be 110. By the end of 2025, we should reduce it by, because we are introducing debt service of 11 billion, we should reduce it by how much? It should be around 99 billion, right? Yes. But instead, we're increasing it to 124 to 100, or we project rather, to increase it to 124 to 126 billion. What is happening here? Are we actually ensuring fiscal sustainability? No, we are actually increasing public debt. We are planning to increase the public debt by how much? Not even by up to 11 billion, which is what we are introducing, but by up to 15 billion. Which is 4 billion more than the 11 billion debt service.
Wow. Oh, wow.
You know, that is interesting. Now, that is that part. The second part is the fiscal deficit, budget deficit. 2023, for 2023, they had actually projected 3.93 billion. You know what happened at the end of 2023, based on the budget speech? 5.1 billion or 16 billion of budget deficit was what was incurred. So you are projecting 3.9 billion of budget deficit, and it becomes, usually it is the talk of the town. Oh, budget deficit is this, budget deficit is that. But mind you, after the budget is approved and implementation, execution happens, believe me, more often than not, what you see is the budget deficit expanding by usually more in millions or even up to billions. And nobody seems to actually talk about it. They only talk about it before the approval. What about actually after the actual effect has already taken place? 2024, 4.45 billion of budget deficit was what they had actually projected. As of September 2024, the budget deficit, total budget deficit, 7.2 billion. And they are saying that it is depending on budget support to come in, so that the budget deficit by the end of 2024 expectantly will go down to 5.1 billion. Not even down to 4.45 billion.
And they did say they haven't got any budget support over the last 12 months.
Yes, that's true.
So who can guarantee it will come?
Yes, it will come true, Mr. Cham. Remarkable. You see? Now this is the problem. Now budget deficit is expanding. Now, this is also now the big triumph, right? The big talk. Ministers are saying, oh, our budget deficit is 1.4% of GDP. It's just 2.7 billion. Who is to say that it is by the end of 2025, it will increase to 8 billion? Because we've seen it. The president is already there, right? 2023, 3.93 projection to 5.16 billion. 2024, 4.45 projection billion to 7.2 billion at end of what? September. Now, what about this? This will tell you, okay, maybe, just maybe, it will not only stop at 2.7 billion, 2025, it will increase all the way up. Okay. So, in a nutshell, bolstering the economic growth, not that significant. Reducing in the sense that, of course, if it should be significant, we should focus on real GDP growth. If that is increasing significantly, then we have a chance at actual GDP growth that people can be proud of. The second part, reducing vulnerabilities. We are not reducing vulnerabilities for everyone. Maybe we are reducing vulnerabilities for the government, but not for the private sector. That is certain.
But what about the 30% increment?
That is for people. That is for people within the public sector.
People outside.
People outside of the private, people outside of the public sector are not being protected. So that's the problem. And private sector, believe me, private sector, especially in developed countries,
they themselves, government always said that private sector is the engine of economic.
Yes,
that's what they say.
Yes, they play a real huge role in developing the economy, but then they are being neglected. No, fiscal sustainability, again, we are not actually practicing fiscal sustainability if we were to just base it off of the debt problem that we have. Debt sustainability is really at huge risk, honestly. I'll stop it for here.
Well, having heard from the expert, Jawo, what are you impressed?
I think the expert has virtually said everything, and his analysis of the budget was quite brilliant. You know, he's telling us that, he's showing us that he's definitely an expert on budgetary issues. And I agree with Dodou Jah that, you know, I think there needs to be a little bit of reform in the way that the budget is being looked at and presented. I think they need to. And another area that they need to, give a lot of attention to is the debt burden. I think the Gambia is having a big debt burden, and it can definitely eventually affect our credit rating at every level. And I can remember I think it was 2017, 2018, you know, the IMF and the World Bank were warning the government to avoid, you know, increasing the debt. But it appears, you know, the government didn't pay heed to it, and they kept on, you know, taking a lot of debts.
But what do you make of this argument that they borrow to develop the country?
Well,
infrastructure.
But eventually, if the debt burden is too big, as it happens right now, you can imagine the amount of money being spent, you know, on the budget to service those debts. I mean, eventually
11 billion.
Yeah, I mean, it's just too much. And how sustainable is that? That is the problem. And there are a lot of, if you look at the budget as a layman, some budget lines don't make sense at all.
Even the allocations.
Yeah, I mean, that's right. The allocation, for example, I mean, what is the justification of increasing, the Meet the People's Store budget from 30 million to 45 million? Even 30 million is just too much. If you look at the Meet the People tour, the composition of the Meet the People tour, who are the people going with the president? We all know, it's his own, cronies, people of the NPP and all that. They virtually comprise 90% of the delegation. Usually, they go around impounding government vehicles, allocating it to these people to go around the country, doing virtually more politicking than even actually doing anything else that serves the interest of the public. So you see, these are all.
This time around, they said they've done very well. They did very
well. Of course, what do you expect them to say? That's exactly what they say. But we all have seen what has happened. There was more politicking than actually, talking.
In the
exactly, that is the issue. And who are the people who went with the president? We all, seen them on TV. Virtually everything was like NPP rallies they were holding. So these are all issues that definitely need to be taken care of, and a lot of other budget line issues that. Definitely, I think the Ministry of Finance should be revisiting and seeing that, because like Dodou Jah also mentioned the OIC summit and the vehicles. I mean, there was absolutely no justification in ordering those vehicles for a 2-day summit. Just picking the guests maybe from the airport and then the following a day or two later returning the guests to the. Do you need, those expensive vehicles to buy all those? Where are those vehicles now? We all know that they have shared them among themselves, going around, increasing the fuel bill, the wear and tear and all those things. Those are all unjustifiable, expenditure. And I think the government definitely need to do much better than they are doing at the moment as far as fiscal policy is concerned.
Well, the government, Minister Kong, credited his government for increasing now.
Well, of course,
they
that's
said
what
60% salary increment or something like that since they came. The allowances and
but
they've been.
As Mr. Dibba said, that is just for the public sector.
Yeah.
And the public sector is just a minor fraction of the Gambia. So increasing their salary doesn't have much effect on the economy at all. Absolutely none.
On the price of commodities.
It doesn't. Absolutely.
So what do we think we need to do finally, Jawo, for us to be able to, as the other side of the political divide, say, serve the productive sectors of the economy? Dodou Jah said we need to have other resources. Then wasn't it said that we probably may have oil? We were told that a certain company, FAR, was exploring oil in a certain oil well between our border, Senegal, and now Senegal we have even started exploring or even digging oil.
Indeed, it makes a lot of sense to expect that the Gambia would also have traces of oil because all the countries within the West Africa coast virtually have found oil either in economic quantities or in traces of oil or whatever. If Senegal, next door neighbor, can have oil, definitely there must be traces of oil in the Gambia. Probably.
So it's reasonable to believe that we have oil. We have it somewhere.
I think so. It's definitely reasonable to believe that there are traces of oil, but at what quantity, that's the question again.
And how do we go about it?
Well, how do we go about it? But I guess probably one fine day we'll also, get oil in economic quantities as well, because definitely it doesn't make much sense that Senegal next door, because we share the same,
it's almost the same area.
Yeah, the same area. If they can have it in Mauritania, have it in Senegal, and I see no reason why we cannot have it in the Gambia. Probably it's the level of exploration that we are still waiting to get.
Why are we ignorant about the level, the state of our mineral resources? Is it because of lack of transparency?
Again,
because apart from oil, haven't there been other precious stones been mined?
Well, of course, these are all possibilities. But again, oil exploration particularly, is very expensive, both to the companies that do the exploration, as well as probably to the government as well. It's not a cheap thing to explore and get the right quantities that we need. But probably Dibba, as the expert on budgetary issues, could be able to elaborate on that issue. Yeah.
Finally, on the budget, I want all three of you to go around and we talk about this. So they talk about infrastructure development, because that's what the government said. It's focused. They believe the politicians have been at each other and said infrastructure development is not just development. As the opposition said, and the government president said, well, I had people said infrastructure development is not development. What is development? So do you think that borrowing to build bridges or to build roads, etc., justify? You mean building roads justify this amount of borrowing we do? Or should we, like you said, should we focus on the daily challenges of the citizens, the bread and butter issues? You think that should preoccupy the government rather than building bridges and or roads all over, some completed, some not completed?
Yeah, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, infrastructure is very important, definitely. I mean, because it's part of telecommunication, I mean, getting from point A to point B, building roads and other things. They are important, definitely important. But I think we need to balance it with, other issues as well. I mean, it's one thing to give the people beautiful roads, but if they are, quality of life and other issues are not augmented, not kind of service much, then, it doesn't make much sense. I think that, you always need to balance it. And that's, I think that's the role of the economist, to be able to see where the balance is, But, I mean, infrastructure is important in every aspect you look at it, yeah.
Okay, we will put more budget questions to the Minister of Finance, who promised to be on the second part of the program. Let's turn gear now. The other issue was in the same assembly, the Minister for Interior, Ablai Sanyang, was there. And among the issues that the parliamentarians confronted him was, why is it that the police are not equipped enough to carry out that? He revealed that there are nearly 150 police stations, and that in fact in most of the areas, the places that they call police stations are rented properties. And he mentioned the amount of money they need to be able to run those things efficiently. I am surprised that we have police stations even in some areas within very short space between them. I didn't realize that we are such a policed state to talk about. What do you make of that, Dodou?
Yes, in every government, it depends what are your priorities. You should know the inner core aspect of the people you govern. What you need, like when you highlighted development. Yes, of course, every country needs development. The question is how, even why, and what comes first, what follows. Why do we do census? The importance, it helps government to know the amount of people that lives in a country, the diverse in those people, the age gaps, even capacity, those that go to school, those that graduate. These data and statistics should be used as a yardstick to prioritize this development we're talking about. Now, coming into security, it's key in any developed country. It's key. Now, these numbers they're highlighting, if you look at the way we live in this country, practically it's not effectively being felt by the people themselves. Like with this number of police stations and the way they operate, if it was very effective, the crime rate in this country would have been very minimal.
The minister said it's reduced compared to...
Well, the ministers, they cannot tell us that what has been reduced because they're not exploring it. They're not working on foot. The minister doesn't go to the market. The minister does not walk on foot at night. The minister is not going to remote places. I think the people within those localities or within those who reside in those places, these are the people you need to ask, and they will give you the challenges. The minister's home is very secure. Burglary, theft is not happening at their houses because they have security. Even when they walk to the market, they have security. So it is the ordinary citizens that you need to ask about security, not the minister and people who are at comfort, in all phases of their life. Even when they're sleeping, they sleep sound and safe. But talking about the police, They have challenges. The capacity there, it's what lacks. Most of the police, we see them more on the traffic and at the police station that when it comes to especially community policing. It's not very effective the way they engage the citizenry. Now, in any country that wants to advance, that wants to develop, these are issues you look into. This is why I said you always must have plan B. The police don't have a place of their own, they're renting. Should this continue? That should be the question. Options should have been found. If somebody owns a place, you should look into buying it rather than continuing to rent. And government has that capacity whereby you not only buy the property, but you can compensate as well. Government owns land. In most countries that you go to, even as young as we were, always tell us, better be burla. When government wants a place, it's easy for them to. We're not saying taking it forcefully from people, but when you want to buy a property, its worth or its value, and you want to compensate them, in case it's a residential place, of course, these are very good deals, and it will cut down costs when it comes to rent is expensive. And in this country, you can increase rent every 6 months or yearly. Nothing comes out of it, and at a price that will be determined by the landlord, him or herself. So this, in effect, we need to look into it. Interior is very, very important. That's why I said the safety of the minister might not be my safety when I have to take so many places on foot at night. What safety costs are there? I hardly work at night, then I come across police patrolling. They're doing it, they're trying their utmost, but what resources do they have in order to maintain that? Now, the population of this country, looking at it compared to other countries, the size of this country in comparison to other countries, I would say developing Gambia should not be difficult. Knowing the connections that we have, but what are the priorities put forward is what needs to be looked into. We're talking about challenges, people's daily survival. It's not only challenging, but it's going to a climax to the extent people, they wake up every day, they're thinking about how to survive. My own projections would be minimum that somebody needs to survive in this country is $300 a day. Looking into the basic necessities. How much is monthly salary? Nothing should go home at the end of the month. Nobody should go home at the end of the month with less than $9,000. That's $300 a day. If you multiply that to a month, it's around $9,000. But how much are people earning? Far less. This is the problem whereby you talk about building bridges, roads, and all this, but you're not developing the human, him or herself. The human resource is lacking. This should be a priority to government. When we talk about our education, as example for government schools, these ministers, do they take their kids to government schools? No. They're showing us that the capacity is not there. They will not take their kids to government schools. When they get sick, do you see them at the Edward Francis Teaching Hospital or to Carnifin or Demba? They don't go there. Most of them would either travel outside the country to get medical treatment. What are they telling us? That our own hospitals are not fit for purpose because they will not head there. Now, looking into the systems we have, they can go to the market. They have the finances, no matter the prices or conditions. They'll be able to get what they want. But the ordinary Gambian would leave home and you ask them, what are you cooking today? They'll tell you until I reach to the market. Because nothing is permanent, nothing is stable at that market. What you buy today for $5, tomorrow it can be $10 or $15. There's no price control. Absolutely. And even attitudinal change is another challenge. Now, if you're saying that we're developing, at what rate, at what pace? Is it reflecting in the lives of people? No. This is a country whereby NAWEC will accumulate bills for you. After 3 months, they will come and bring you a water bill of $15,000. They say, this is what you owe to NAWEC. How much you receiving salary a month? These are things that is not justified.
I think I will invite Minister to
and yet still,
all of us here.
Still we're saying we're developing. Yes, we're developing infrastructure, but the people on the ground are struggling every day to put food on the table. What type of development do we call that?
Mr. Dibba, what do you make? Are they also right when they said the government is concentrating on building structures? Find that may be important, but people are grappling with it.
Well, let me say this before you come to him. As a politician, most of us too are not genuine. We could be very critical to the government and talk about these issues. But if you ask them what are the solutions, they hardly offer one. They can hardly tell you what we can do in order to remedy these challenges. We're good at critiquing, but when it comes to offering solutions, as politicians, I'm telling you, most of us, we don't have the answers. Very quickly.
Yeah, very quickly.
Infrastructure development versus daily life. The government has to balance it. You know, you can't sit here and they said, since you come to power, you have not developed, you've not built even one piece of road. But then, you know, people will say, well, why the road when we are hungry? What would the government do?
You know,
He would say we can satisfy both. We have to do one thing or the other.
You know, Mr. Cham, the key thing about development is that welfare is improved.
Yes.
That's the essential thing about development.
But building roads is not part of welfare.
Welfare is improved. Now, when we talk about welfare, it can be part of people being able to move freely, to go about their businesses.
Yes.
For example, if you are
to reach hospitals.
Yes, exactly, as quick, not to die.
Quick enough, yes.
To carry out your business, to make as much profit, so as you know,
to carry goods across roads.
Yes, exactly. That's a form of an increment in welfare.
So the government is right in saying that our priority is infrastructural development.
Infrastructure development is very important. It is important. But for the Gambia, it is not the ultimate priority right now. The ultimate priority for the Gambia is food security. And when we talk about food security, we're looking at fisheries, we're looking at agriculture. So, but now, I'm going to talk about, I don't want to make it too long, I'm going to talk about the 2025 budget, for example. The government is addressing the issue for infrastructure development, and it's also addressing the issue for food security. But when you look at the agriculture development budget, agriculture ministry's development budget, and you look at the Ministry of Transport, Works and Infrastructure's development budget, you know, 2.2 billion of the government local fund is going into infrastructure development. But also around 5 billion is there for agricultural development. There are 6 major development projects that are underway for 2025 with respect to the Ministry of Agriculture. 6. Each of these major development projects are they are worth at least $500 million. This includes the roads projects, you know, the food security project and all that. So to make it simple is that, Mr. Cham, it's basically about making sure that what you promise, you deliver.
Okay.
Can government do both of them at the same time? Obviously, through project grants, if they are credible. You know, last time I was here, I said the development budget is not credible.
Yes.
That is the worry because of the historical data. But can it be credible? Yes, it can be. Can they take the development budget seriously? If they do take the development budget seriously, Mr. Cham, and they secure the funds at the right time, they allocate the funds to the right places, which is usually the problem. If they are able to do that, the agriculture sector can develop. Yes, Mr. $5 billion for 2025 only to develop the agriculture sector.
And this in addition to all projects that have.
Yes, including projects. Okay. You know, 961 million is what the government is given from government local fund, but the rest is coming from projects. Now,
that should be huge.
It should be. Yeah. It should be. Honestly, it should be. So they are.
But then, of course, how it is used for the vehicles.
Yes, that's the problem.
That's at the end of it, what reaches the development itself is so minimal.
That's the problem. If they manage the funds well, they do not mismanage the funds.
So Jawo,
is
it a problem of mismanagement or a lack of resources that we are not able to balance the budget?
I think it's more of misplaced priorities as well as poor planning, lack of planning, and maybe not good management as such. I wouldn't say mismanagement, but probably the planning and management is very poor. I mean, let's look at the security sector, for example. The police. The minister said more than 60% of their police stations are actually rented. Are rented. At this stage in the Gambia, we shouldn't have been at that stage. Definitely. I mean, if they had given priority to that sector, because we are talking about, I mean, security sector reform and other things. That should have been given priority. But go to even those so-called police stations, not even a bicycle is available there. When you go and report a case there, you either have to take a taxi and pay and go with the police, or you bring your own car. You know, all those, that means they have not given priority. I mean, we've seen them recently, the president going around, opening okay. Anyway, I mean, maybe we can.
At this point, we will.
Okay, maybe. No, I can.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm definitely going. The minister can come here, because I definitely have somewhere to go.
Yeah. Right. All right. We will. When we come back, we will continue with the Minister of Finance, Seedy Keita, on his budget and other issues that you might. So, if you have a question, you can put it in the comment box. Jawo, we will check.
Planning to have an uninterrupted electricity and water supply from solar energy in the Gambia and beyond? Worry no more, because Solar Enterprise will provide you with the solutions at reasonable cost. We have experienced personnel who can install and advise you about your electricity and water supply with a warranty period. We have good quality solar products from North America and Europe. We provide services and sell products to individuals, organizations, institutions, private offices, communities, and government. These products are solar panels, batteries, charge controllers, inverters, water pump, water heaters, freezers, submersible pumps, and general solar accessories. Visit our stores at 48
Takaful Fund.
Welcome back to the Brunch on Kerfatu Live. This is our weekly look at current affairs. Like we said at the beginning of the program, the Minister of Finance, Seedy Keita, the Honorable Seedy Keita, was in the National Assembly yesterday to present the budget for 2025. After the budget speech, the budget will then be debated by National Assembly members. But we have our own debate, and we are privileged that the Honorable Minister himself has joined us in this debate. Welcome, Honorable.
Thank you very much, Lamin, and thank you to you.
Over there is the Dodou Jah, Honorable of the APRC, and a commentator on and a commentator. It's okay, it's on. Okay. Commentator on national affairs, and he is Lamin Dibba, an expert in the studio for budgetary matters. So the two of them will help us, will help me put questions that we need clarifications for. My first question is, Honorable Minister, let's go quickly back to Parliament. You told the Assembly what the government intends to do and how the resources that are going to, what you think would be available and how you're going to spend it. So let's go back there. What kind of budgets did you submit yesterday?
Thank you very much. Yesterday was the second phase of the budget process in terms of its approval. Because when we first laid the budget, that was the numbers, and that was for the next fiscal year. Yeah. Yesterday laid the policy framework, the measures that will help that budget numbers to come into fruition. Yeah. And it is normal that a complete budget discussion would be better have after the policies the policies that underpin the numbers that were first discussed when were submitted. That was in the budget speech. But in nutshell, like I have mentioned, the budget for 2025 rests on three prongs. One is fiscal sustainability. The budget aims to reduce the deficit. And on that, I hasten to repeat that the deficit is 1.4% when you take into account all funds. And the objective is, if you have an elevated debt level, the best way to tackle that is to reduce your annual budget deficit so that your borrowing becomes less. And then as you pay off your outstanding principal and interest, then that way you'll have a downward trend on your overall obligations, that is debt portfolio. The second thing is the budget is people-centric. It focuses on the priorities of what Gambians need for the next 12 months. So, the budget discussion, as you know, even suffered in terms of timetabling because of the people factor. Because when we did not have a consensus on the ground, on the home turf with the fund, the executive, led by His Excellency the President, insisted that the wage increase is a must and must be had. So we took leave of the authorities of the Assembly and we continued the discussion in Washington. And luckily, and thank God, we're able to realize a wage increase. The overall average salary increase, as we've mentioned, is about 30%. But as I have indicated yesterday, the salary increase is not a straight line. It was cascaded to reflect the inequity, to address the inequity, because the budget focuses on the less privileged, particularly in the core civil service. That's why the grade 1s have an increase of more than 70%, the grade 2 67%. Then it cascades down up to the permanent secretary levels, which are fixed grades, and that those have only 7% increase. And I hasten to add that no minister or the president is part of this increment. And this increment is focused on the basic salary. But also, if you look at the allowances, the residential allowance has been increased by 100%. The transport allowance has been increased by 100%. So that's the people-centric aspect of it. And the third element is to focus on domestic resource mobilization, because budget is just a plan, and we tend to spend more time discuss about how to spend, but very limited time on what comes in to be spent. So that was the anchor of the third pillar of the budget. That's why you'll see the revenue level is now increased by 23% to 22 billion. So why that is the case? Because we believe the way forward in our national development agenda is self-reliance. And the numbers are showing it very clearly, in the sense that if you look at the donors who are giving us money, grants and assistance, their tax efficiency in terms of the tax revenue to GDP, which effectively indicates the tax burden on the population, is about 35%. Meanwhile, in sub-Saharan Africa, the average is about 16%. Gambia, we are still hovering around 10 to 11%. That means that we still have room. If we increase the compliance efficiencies, we can see increased revenue mobilization domestically. That way we will not resort to funding in terms of borrowing for development and other activities. So in a nutshell, these are the three pillars of the budget: people-centric, macro-fiscal sustainability, and domestic resource mobilization.
Good. Well, let's break it down to the layman's understanding.
In fact, I think I'll struggle on that. I hope at some point we'll have the vernacular, because most of these discussions have been happening in English, because the people in the street should hear and understand. What the budget should speak to the people, and the people should relate.
Exactly. But why did you do this in the National Assembly then?
No, but there's already a provision for that. I think only language so far is English. I would not go there to the level I can. But I would be happy.
You think you can be able to discuss it here?
No, anyway, and on the platform, I think what we are doing is we're going to roll out a communication strategy where staff of the ministry will go to different media houses.
Yeah, exactly. That's a very good point.
Because people should identify themselves with government priorities, government policies. And there is no better document reflecting government intention for the next 12 months than a budget.
Exactly.
And I really want us to center the discussion on the resource base.
Exactly.
Because if you look at even the entire budgetary process, the thrust of it is the appropriation bill is focused on what is to be spent. But hardly have I had
resource
a very robust debate or discussion on resource mobilization. Yes, and I really want.
I have a few points there before I hand you over to. And that is the people want to, this question is that in 2024, 2 weeks after the budget speech, you were in office then. The government announced receiving huge funds from World Bank and other development partners. That money was never included in the budget. Can you confirm the total amount that was received and what effect this had in 2024? Because the concern is that even after you submit this budget yesterday, few or 2 weeks after you announced receiving grants or something like that, where are these reflected?
No, actually, these were reflected in the 2024 budget. Because that's a very useful question.
Yeah.
You know, a budget is for January 1st to 31st December.
Yes.
And the budget is normally approved within the month of December.
Yes.
In terms of receipt of donor funds.
Yes.
Sometimes there's a lag. In fact, I was on at the National Assembly, and I did reference that some of the allocations were constrained because part of the expected inflows from budget support did not.
Okay.
And just like happened last year, again, the similar phenomenon will happen this year.
Yes.
Because as of last week, we received approval from World Bank.
Yes. And this
and the EU.
Yeah, but how is this reflected in this budget?
No, that will be for 2024 budget.
2025?
No, currently. The budget support for 2025 will be from January 1st, 2025 to December 31st. Anything that is received within 24 is for 24. So for 2024, it must have been December of 2023.
Yeah, but you had already presented that budget.
No. That budget was for January 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2024.
Nice.
So anything that comes within falls within that 2024 budget calendar.
Okay, very quickly, because I don't want to dwell on that because this has been in the the bridge toll fees increased from, according to the budget, 930 million to 3 million 539 million
3.5 billion
in 2025. Well, the brick toll increased from 930 million, I guess,
to 3
billion 539 million in 2025. In this part of the allotment, payment from APRC 50 for the asset recycling. If so, this money should not be used to fund government recurrent expenditure. It is defeating the purpose for this PPP, that is, private partnership arrangement. The proceeds for asset recycling is to finance another productive asset from the sale and not to use to fund government expenditure. The description is trying to say, if the funds from the bridge is meant to recycle to do other things, why would it be part of government expenditure? Can you explain this?
No, I think, point of clarification.
Yes, that's right.
Every government expenditure must be appropriated.
Okay.
Be it recurrent, capital, or development, whatever. There is no, government doesn't have any authority, the executive have no authority to spend any funds without it being appropriated. So even though the proceeds of asset recycling are coming in, and indeed they are earmarked for fixed asset generation.
Exactly.
That is for the infrastructure.
Yes.
As you know right now, most of our road infrastructure are financed domestically. And the rate at which we are doing the road expansion is more than actually the budget can contain. So the proceeds of the asset recycling are going to be earmarked towards road infrastructure. And that doesn't necessarily mean once something is in the budget, it's going to be recurrent expenditure. And in fact, we'll hasten to, that's why at the central bank, we have a dedicated escrow account for the proceeds of this asset recycling. Because we're mindful that tomorrow they'll ask us, you said you recycle.
You recycle.
And in fact, this is one of the conditions of even the development partners to say, if you say asset recycling, the proceeds must be identified with tangible infrastructure being created.
Yes.
And that we are working closely with the Minister of Works to make sure that the road infrastructure, wherever the proceeds of the asset recycling will be identified
I see.
Yes, because definitely that's a very valuable.
Yeah, well, that's right.
Yeah, people, and I think it's in their interest.
In their interest also to know.
It's like more of a tagging.
Yes, yeah, I think it's a labeling. In fact, we are going to the extent that we do have ongoing infrastructure works where pending payment to contractors exist.
Okay.
But because of the visibility, we're working with the Ministry of Work to ensure that wherever the proceeds of these funds are used, they're able to be identified with where they're deployed to.
Okay.
Infrastructure-wise.
The other question is concerning GRA. It is said that GRA is paid 4.5% on whatever they collect.
Yes, compensation.
Compensation, 4.5. Okay. Every month, a tripartite reconciliation is done between GRA, the Accountant General, and the officers of the ministry, your ministry, to validate this collection, from which 4.5% is calculated and paid to GRA monthly subvention. So, for example, GRA, they announced making a total of 19 billion by November this year. Now, if you calculate 4.5% of that amount, that would be transferred. That would be about 950 million to the tax authority, subject to your confirmation after the tripartite recognition. This is huge amount for the institution like GRA, given the budgets for, gender, tourism, fisheries, etc., all fall short of these amounts. So in other words, guys ask, why is GRA? Is it just because they are collecting money, they've given this big incentive?
No, I think this is not unique to Gambia. All revenue agencies are compensated this way.
Yeah, but
GRA is not
GRA alone is having 900 million.
Well, this is the formula of how revenue administrations are compensated. You compensate them as a function of their collection. And that is why, if you look at the Ministry of Finance budget, we have 2.something billion, because the GRA is a subvented entity under. So, in fact, in the 2025 budget, you'll see, because the revenue projection for GRA has increased, large allocation will also be equally given.
So, this is why GRA is killing themselves.
It's an incentive structure. It's an incentive structure. It's a reward mechanism to ensure that collection is done.
Yes.
And this is how revenue agencies...
Because since they know that if we are part of their interests, the
interests are aligned.
Yeah, that's
if
right.
you compensate them based on their performance, that's how incentive schemes are designed.
But people
and these are not now that discussion has happened, and for next year, executive has taken a conscious decision to say, well, your revenue volumes are increasing.
Yes.
As such, that relationship needs to be discussed.
Definitely.
And there was a calibration of it in 2025.
I see.
So it was 2025 allocation. It's not a direct linear extrapolation of 4.5% over whatever they are collected. That's why you will see what is allocated for them is not a 4.5% of the target that they are set for. So there has been a haircut this year. During the cabinet.
So you realize that it's too much.
Well, I won't call it too much because GRA also has rolled out a plan. Because they have their offices and their outfits in the provinces where they are building the infrastructure. If you go to Soma, they are building their premises. In some of the GRA places, they are still renting. And they have rolled out a development plan. And we hope, upon completion of that development plan, this whole MOU can be revisited and the levels recalibrated to more realistic amounts.
Are they financing all this?
All of them. That's the only interaction between GRA and government.
I see.
This is the only, all that they get from us is the subvention, which is a function of what they collect.
I see.
Then they are doing all their developments from that. And of course, the running of the agency itself, staff cost, and everything that goes with it.
The other question is, can the minister confirm the budgeted revenue for CICHO report for airport tax in the 2025 budget? If there are no budget for this revenue, is government abandoning the controversial airport? You didn't mention this CICHO report. Where is it included?
Well, that's what I mentioned. The revenue lines were not detailedly discussed.
Yes.
So, but of course, if you go to the estimate itself, which is published under the Ministry of Interior, there is a line for security fees proceeds. Of course, I don't have it offhand, but definitely there is a function. There is an expected revenue stream coming from there.
I see.
What we are trying to do is because the funny thing about the security report is applicable in most airports. but it's the collection mechanism.
Yes, exactly.
That's the problem.
That's
And
where the difference.
That's where the even in Ghana, it is there. In those
So why can we adopt that system?
we are working on it. I think
controversy.
in fact, it's not just controversy. It's not what we want as a government. But don't forget, to approve a revenue item to be included in a ticket, it's not a government decision.
IATA has.
It's IATA. It's an international body.
Yes.
And they have their own regulations.
They don't like it.
No, not that they don't like it. They have asked questions which are being answered, and the discussions are ongoing. And we hope the Ministry of Works, the Civil Aviation, Interior, and my ministry are all working together how we can be able to meet the IATA conditions for the security port fees to be included in the ticket. Security fees is not unique to Gambia.
Yes, you said it.
But it's the method of collection.
Exactly.
That is a bit of a challenge.
And that's a lot of controversy. I mean, many people, especially Gambians,
Yeah.
foreigners alike, don't like to be asking to pay money at the airport. So if you put in the ticket, perhaps that's indirect route.
That's an effort government is deploying resources to.
It's especially if you don't have cash with you. You come to the airport and they're asking.
No, even as government, we want to discourage people carrying cash. We want to discourage government revenues or being paid through cash. So definitely, it's part of our reforms that we try to digitalize as much revenue collection as we can.
Okay, people also talk about where you probably can do well to save costs. And this question is the office. There is an institution called Office of National Security Advisor, which is under the Office of the President. It doesn't seem to have any budget in 2025. If that is correct. If that is correct, tell us. Is that office going to be transformed as an agency in 2025? Let the minister tell the people, why do we need another security outfit in the country, given that we already have SISPIU, GPF, Office of National Security? Do we need it? Because
Well, I think
you have to spend a lot of money. You have to create a budget for it. You didn't mention it in your budget. Is it now under some other?
Well, I think the NSA is part of the security reform as an outcome. As an outcome, part of the recommendation of the security sector reform is the creation of the NSA. And the NSA bill, I think, is before the National Assembly. And it's going through the ratification process. Once it comes into law, then it will be a bona fide agency. At that stage, the budgetary issues can be taken on board.
So you will have to find money for it.
Well, security is and that's one area. Security is not cheap, and no fund security operations for economy.
It's from our own tickets.
Security. In fact, that's where how the budgetary allocation decisions are arrived at. Some sectors are very soft to the donors,
yes,
like agriculture, education, health.
Yeah.
But when it comes to running your civil service, the security, your independent judiciary,
I expect that to be at the internal.
Exactly. So that is where like the discussion has always have to be understood. Like when we allocate, let's say 940 something million to agriculture, that is not the total resource envelope for the sector.
Yeah, because the donors,
the donors are actually
putting account for the 5 billion.
5 billion. So total allocation to the Ministry of Agriculture is 6 billion. Now, and these are all in the form of project grants and other intervention from partners. So you don't crowd out your limited resources when you have help. So you rather focus on areas.
But what about if the first, if
No.
help doesn't come?
No, I think that's one very important clarification to be made. Any amount in the budget is no longer something to be had. It's already something signed and a commitment is there. Either it's
So
a
you believe
project,
it will come?
No, it's there. It depends on the project implementation.
I see.
Because even if a donor commits funds,
If
the project is not actually implemented, it's not happy. Every project has a roadmap, has a project implementation plan, has a procurement plan. It is the execution of those plans that will trigger the disbursement. So if those plans are not executed, you can have an approval, you can have the amount in the budget, but in terms of the deployment, it will not be held.
It could take changes.
Yes, because donors will only pay what is executed.
Finally, from my side, it seems the debt interest charges has been following a consistent trend since 2023. The debt interest charge for 2023 was 3.5 billion, if that is correct. In 2024, it was 7.5 billion, and now for 2025, it's 11 point something billion. The increment from 2023 to 2024 is 3 billion. From 2024 to 25 is 3.5 billion. How can the minister explain this ominous trend to the people? How can you explain?
Well, that's a very good question, and I think I'll take time to delve into it. Debt is a function of the interest and principal repayment. As you know, with the onslaught of COVID, the inflation has jacked up. And when inflation increases, globally, the first tool available to attack it is monetary policy of the central bank. And that comes in the form of raising the interest rate. So anytime the central bank raises interest rate, the borrowed funds domestically are now attracting more interest. That's one. And the 2025 budget amount is 11 billion. Simply, with the onslaught of COVID, there was an unanimous agreement with the donor partners that there will be a suspension on the servicing of the principal of the debt components. So from 2020 up to 2024,
it's rescheduled.
No, not rescheduled, but you will not be paying the principal element. You will only be servicing the interest element. So now that holiday period has expired. So in 2025, we will be the year when we will start paying the principal. So that's why it has increased to 11 billion.
I see.
Yes, that's the whole point. And I think this is not just unique to, and I think whatever we're saying, the good thing is we are not an island. These are what every country goes through, and we really, that's why we say let us reduce our deficit to reduce how much we borrow, so that the debt sustainability will come down. And we have done a lot of progress in that. Because even if you look at our published data, which is accompanying the budget document, you'll see that by 2018, the debt to GDP was about 125%. This has taken a downward trend until now it's less than 70%. And for 2025, we are expecting it to be around 65%. So the whole thrust is we need to bring this down to as low as about less than 50. And less than 50, that's when the elevated debt level will disappear. Then it becomes manageable.
Yeah, you yourself really quite worried about the debts, that's the stress you were quoted as saying. People are wondering whether, what method do you have to, and so you told me how you want to reduce the debt, but people say you probably could cut expenses and save money.
No, I think to tackle the debt, the debt burden, it's like first you start with the budget fiscal framework, and fiscal framework means that your deficit should be as low as possible, raise as much resources while you contain the expenditure. Of course, we are a developing country, and we need to continue to invest as we go along. So now the challenge is how to increase the top line. But when it comes to the particular element of tackling the debt, what we are doing as a policy of the government is we are only taking loans that are concessionary. We are not taking any commercial loan.
You are not taking
any commercial loan. Commercial loan
means those that are given at favorable.
I'll explain that. Commercial loans mean market rate of interest.
Okay.
Concessionary means having a grant element of 35%.
I see.
So for every foreign borrowing that we do, the grant element must be 35%. That means if you borrow 100, if you look at the cash flows, that is the payment plan, and you discount them to present value, the difference between the nominal amount and the present value must be at least 35%. So that the loan is soft. Just otherwise, in a layman term, they'll say soft loans. It's not commercial loans. And that's what we are doing.
So these are the kind of loans.
So that reduce the deficit, only contract concessionary loan, as well as start paying the principal. Because as you pay down the principal, the loan book comes down. So these are the three strategies we are doing to tackle that.
Good. Yes. I would like to. I don't want to dwell on the Africa 50 Senegal break.
No, I think I need to.
There has been a lot of controversy over the last few years. There are a few days.
It's a new thing.
Yeah.
New. I'll just hasten to just put on the table. I mean, asset recycling is not unique. It has been happening everywhere.
Yes.
Just that maybe in Gambia, this is the first time it's happening. But the whole trust of this agreement can be simply boiled down to two things. Simple layman terms.
And what are those?
The bridge is a grant. It's not a loan. We are not servicing any debt on it.
Yes.
It's a grant given to us by African Development Bank. Like the parent of Africa 50.
Yes.
African Development Bank owns Africa 50 together with the government of Gambia. Gambia is a shareholder in Africa 50. Africa 50 is not a private company where their interest is only profit. They are supposed to be financially viable to make returns, but then the profit is not their only motive. Africa 50 is a special entity created by African Development Bank to address the infrastructure deficit in Africa through private sector approaches. So we are not dealing with private money making where the welfare of the country or the counterparts are not on board. And besides, we are shareholders in Africa 50.
I see.
And the bridge costs about $97 million.
To build?
Yeah, to build. And now we have 100 million.
This is in dollars, isn't it?
In dollars.
In dollars?
Yes.
So you have 100 million,
yes.
as people will say, mortgage it.
No. If it's a mortgage, it would have been on our
people always.
No, of course. It's the way they want to spin it. But that's why, in spirit of transparency, we have disclosed this agreement.
I know. And
displayed it on our website. For every Gambian.
Yeah, but they said it took so long for.
No, because No. That's not correct. The point was there was a misunderstanding, and that misunderstanding we believe could be better addressed by actually putting on the table the entire agreement.
Yes.
And if you look at that's why.
What they said it took you so long to do that.
No, but when did we sign the agreement?
Yeah, but
look at the date of the agreement.
That is a couple of months back.
Well, yes, that's what we
didn't know about the competing rules and stuff like that.
No, the competing rules are really misunderstood.
No, we didn't know about them until Gajigo started.
No, but Gajigo misunderstood. I want to reference him.
I want you to explain this.
No. In fact, it's a very conscious decision. If you have a concession, there has to be some element of protection of the concession for that period. Otherwise, this is not unique to this transaction. Because what we said, I think what I had initially, in fact, I think it's a TikTok or one of the social media thing, they say, you know what the Minister of Finance did? He signed an agreement that will bar the government of the Gambia from building any bridges on the River Gambia until the end of the period of agreement.
Yes, that's what it's okay.
Then I said, hey, but that's not what I signed up to. Wait a minute, I didn't talk about here. Then I and they said, oh, it's from IMF. I said, yeah, but all IMF documents we are aware. It's actually, in fact, in true spirit of transparency. The relevant quote made was from Article 4 consultation document of the IMF. And those documents are like the staff opinion, and where they analyze and they document their understanding of what they analyze and put as part of the documentation. It doesn't mean that what is written there is sacrosanct. Because if you look at the way it was captured, is that no other bridge, the way I understood, even somebody, my friend called me and said, Seedy, what did you do? I said, what do you mean? You tied the hands of this country. Even Banjul Bara Bridge cannot be built.
Well, it was categorically stated.
Then I said, no, hold on. Not that I signed up to. Two distinct definitions need to be made clear.
Yeah.
One is competing route. Two is competing bridge.
Yes.
Competing bridge was defined as a bridge within the radius of 50 kilometers.
Not entire
country.
And
No.
Specific.
In fact, from Bara to we took actually, to tell you the precision, we took if you put in Google Map, Senegal Bridge to Bara is 126 kilometers.
Okay.
Just to show you that the diligence. I'm just telling you the diligence we did.
Yeah.
But we didn't stop there. We even in the computing bridge defined and said open bracket excluding Banjul.
Okay.
Then computing route comes into being.
Computing routes. That's
the computing route. No, the computing route is
river transport.
No, let me just explain. Computing route means We said because
you say route. We understand.
Yes.
Route. That's American. We say route.
Anyway, but what the mentioned is that if, and this is in section 7.4 of the agreement, clause 7.4, it says, if the traffic volume increase, because before we go into this agreement, a lot of studies have happened. We studied the traffic, we studied the type of vehicle, we studied the motorability, we studied the condition of the bridge, the average lifespan, the engineering, everything was done to make sure that we didn't leave anything, and a business, a financial scenario developed. And if you look at the agreement, at the annex of the agreement is the financial scenario, which started with a base case, like business as usual, this is what is expected. And the computer route defines that if for 2 consecutive years, the traffic volume at the bridge exceeds 50% of that base case scenario of traffic count, 2 consecutively, that clause of computer route is no longer valid. There's a lot of conditionality to interpret the agreement. It says, for example, all of a sudden, there's a swamp of traffic. 1 year one, it exceeds what is in the base case study by 50%. Year 2, more than 50% by what's in the agreement. Then that computing route is no longer valid, because that technically means the bridge cannot handle the traffic. So the country will
you now have justification of any computing.
Of course. That's all.
But for the moment, example, between Jarasoma and Foni, you cannot build a bridge there now.
No, but
unless, of course, these conditions.
But also, let me tell you, we have not signed this agreement with a private company.
No, I know.
Where it owns is their drive.
You already said.
We have signed it. No, we have signed it with a strategic development partner. If national interest comes, what is to stop us from renegotiating those terms?
Especially, we have a share there.
Of course, we are shareholders. We sit in the board. No, of course, the board membership rotates. But if it comes to Gambia Stone, we'll be in the board. And by the way, Senegambia Bridge is not only the 100 million proceeds we are getting. We are shareholder in the special purpose vehicle that will be managing the bridge.
I see.
For which our shareholding is 12.5%. For which Gambia has not paid a penny.
I see.
That was sweat equity.
I see.
So any year after the operations,
so basically what you are saying that whatever is being collected, 12% or so will come to the
So because, for example, like any company, once you do your operations, you pay out whatever you're supposed to pay. Your net profit, we have 12.5% of that.
Okay.
That will be there as long as the concession
lasts.
And the second thing,
now many people think the concession period is too long, and the bridge was generating enough money, to nullify any need to mortgage, so to speak.
No, I'll tell
you. Was it not already violent?
No,
we have a need to.
Of course we do.
You think it would not have? Well, you yourself said
we'll be done.
It was making good money before the concession.
No, I'm explaining. Before we, as a ministry, took over the management of the bridge, it was only generated 17 million monthly. When we change the management,
did we have 40?
When we change the management, it goes up to 40 million.
40 million.
But then we are seeing the numbers. Because if people who cross the bridge, they will realize that the barrier sometimes is there, sometimes it's not there. So we all know what this asset recycling is: management of public infrastructure using private sector approach. In fact, as part of the output today, whatever Senegambia Bridge delivers as returns, we don't know how many vehicles pass through. There's no traffic count. Yes, that's the reality. But now, with this asset recycling, there'll be an automated system where every revenue will be supported by a traffic count. If you say you give me 10,000 or 10 million, that 10 million will be broken down to the number of cars, the type of cars, price per unit of the cars that paid. So it's going to bring visibility and transparency.
Proper management.
That's one. And when it comes to because it's a force of its kind, we have put in a lot of checks and balances. The first is we have said a maximum period of 25 years. A maximum, but
it could be less.
Yeah, that's why if you look at it, there is not a linear transaction. It is a return-driven transaction. By that we mean After year 15, there will be a viability assessment. And for each of these assessments, the agreement stipulate international auditors of international repute will conduct both the audit of the transactions as well as that assessment. If at that stage, the investors make their return on target IRR, that is internal rate of return. Because what we did agree with them is, look, we have very limited statistics on this because the numbers have been going up and down. And as such, valuation becomes an issue. As such, what would be your optimum target return investors will be expecting from this transaction? And that came to be around 15%. If in 15 years, the traffic volume shoot up so that that target return is realized, this bridge comes back to the government of the Gambia in 15 years.
Instead of 25.
Instead of 25 years. And if after the first test, it did not meet the target return, the bridge will be operated for another 5 years. In year 20, a similar exercise will be conducted. If the return is meeting the 15% target IRR, the target IRR, then it will revert back. It's only if after the first test, second test, no return has been realized as expected, and it will go to 25 years. Okay. I hope that is very clear.
Yes, I can see.
These are all in the documents. So
what you're trying to say is that, okay,
yes,
people believe the bridge was already making money.
Yes.
Therefore, no justification for you to go into this agreement. But you are saying that, in fact, for the winnings, for the advantage of the state, not only are we getting $100 million cash instantly, but the involvement of this agreement is going to ensure that there's proper management of these funds.
Yes.
So that, in fact, within a short time, as might happen, we will be able to recover all these things. And then we go back to the company.
The life of the bridge is more than 40 years.
100 years or so.
Okay. So technically, we're getting half of the lifespan. Period. And you're getting everything up front. And flip it the other way around. I have a question. Tell me one publicly generated asset or publicly managed asset that has paid for itself over its lifespan. Yes, I don't know. No, I'm asking. We have a case here. No. Maybe this is what's obvious, but government will not go into any enterprise like any other. No, all these state-owned investments are not charity. They are to provide services, but also to ensure
security. Very well.
No, Social Security is a different situation. Social Security money is that of the pensioners.
I see.
It is the setting up cost government did, but whatever monies you see in Social Security is not a government money.
Yes.
It belongs to the retirement funds of the pensioners. But I'm asking this question: which fiscal asset or enterprise created by government has paid for itself in terms of its running cost and its capital cost of investment?
Certainly not now.
No, I am just putting the question out there. So, which has paid for itself, and also the other flip side of it. Today, suppose Gambia is supposed to go to the market to borrow. Can we borrow 100 million? And at what cost?
$100 million.
Yes.
Instantly.
Yes.
Depending on our collateral.
No, I'm just asking. As a state,
$100 million.
Even if you put a collateral, you must pay a return on it.
Yes.
For this 100 million, there's no return attached to it. We're not paying any interest. That's why when people say mortgage, I think basic financial mathematics. Every mortgage you have interest paid.
Perhaps now I will pass you over to
Yes. Before we shift from here, the concern other people have is when it comes to management. It is like we can't manage our own. We always have to outsource it.
Well, that's not unique to Gambia. Even the developed world, if you go, most of the public utilities, most of the utilities have been actually let to be managed by the private sector. In terms of efficiency, if you go to any public infrastructure that is of large nature, it's increasingly more and more being transferred to private hands. And when you transfer to private hands, okay, like for example, as a government, there is nothing private about a transaction for government like this, because if it is properly managed and paying you profit, they'll be paying their taxes, they'll be employing your citizens, and the services that you want to be done will still be rendered. You get my point?
Yeah.
So why try to hold on to something when a core competence is available to do it better, and then the service that you expect it to deliver will be delivered. You will get your tax collection, your citizens will be employed. This is it. This is not just and I think that is one of the most important things.
Sometimes the challenge is increment in cost. It hits back at the citizenry.
No, but then if it hits back, it's of course efficiency factor, because once it is efficient, that means whatever is paid out will be. If you have a private management and they make profit, the profit will be visible. Your tax return will be better. But if it's on the public management, and you even have to bail it out supposedly. I mean, not only are you not getting your returns so that you can deploy to other sectors, but you now have to, and this is across, I think the development landscape of just focusing on public investment to be managed by publicly needs to be looked at, because the leaders in development are showing a different sign.
Yeah.
If you go to all these toll roads in Europe, America, they're in private hands, but they're providing the infrastructure, they're providing the services for people to use, and that's why you don't have much infrastructure deficit in the West, because easily you can just do a concession, a road will be built. I hope I'm clear.
Yes, of course.
Okay, get to bed.
Okay.
Don't let the minister go. Get him on this.
Actually, my issue with the Trans-Gambia Asset Recycling Program is the agreement the Honorable Minister has explained, and some of the things that we didn't know, we now know.
Yes.
And, they've actually brought in clarification.
Exactly.
That's really good for the public, and even for experts, honestly. But the part that I have an issue with is the money is gotten. For 2025, it's going to be $50 million, right? $3.5 billion. Now, you've made mention that the money is going to go into infrastructure, basically Ministry of Works, Construction, and the transport infrastructure. So, and I've seen in the budget that 2.2 billion of GLF is appropriated to the ministry. Probably that's for that. Particularly road transport management is about 1.4 billion. Yeah, but what I'm keenly interested in as an expert and also as a member of the public is basically is the plan to use that money to just build the infrastructure and not gain anything out of it, or to build it to gain something out of it. And if it is to build it to gain something out of it, for example, build a bridge or build a road whereby you can monetize something, which road probably not so, bridge maybe so. But my question would be, the money that is going into the Ministry of Works, is it just going to build roads, or is it going to build roads and bridges that will generate revenue for the economy? Why am I asking this? If I were to say that, of course, if we were to talk about, okay, how do we put this money into use, I would say let's put it into something that will generate revenue for us. Basically, that might even help us complete the real true definition of asset recycling, probably from an investment point of view. You gain from one investment into another investment. That's just not going to be about showcasing development for people's welfare to be improved, but also to generate revenue for the government, because the government really, truly, Gambia is not a country where you can just take money out of something that is generating revenue for you into something that's not going to generate revenue for you. We cannot even afford it. It's not something that's going to work in our interest. We need something.
So in other words, what he's trying to say is the money you got from the Senegambia,
basically, yeah,
that $100 million, you're going to give it to the Ministry of Works to build infrastructure. It's just going to be infrastructure that will be built, and we look at it, it's nice, or it's going to be one that will produce.
Well, even without asset recycling, all the infrastructure being built by the government is not built to produce return. The role of government is to develop infrastructure, the backbone of the key economy. the returns for a government and investment is not only the financial return. You will look at what they call social return as well.
Yes.
Like the Batin had in highway. By the same argument, one would have assumed that, government has gone and taken a loan to build this. As such, in order to service our loan, the road must pay for itself. But that's not the role of government. Government build infrastructure to render service for the citizens. So when we say asset recycling, it doesn't mean a multiplier recycling. Once the first proceed is into the infrastructure, then that completes the asset recycling. Because the core definition of asset recycling is proceeds from one transaction generate an equivalent infrastructure.
Exactly.
But whether that infrastructure is a profit-driven one, that would be the ideal if it could. If government would have now taken the profit into its own operation modus operandi, then that would be the logical
sequence. You can't do that until 15 years.
No. What I'm saying, the role of government is to develop infrastructure. And those infrastructure development are not geared towards only infrastructure that gives returns. By that argument, who will build any road in the rural areas? It's the citizens whose lives are impacted. So as such, when government is investing...
Maybe you, like you said, you use it to build the bar when you
No, I'm just explaining. When government is investing, it doesn't only invest through the...
It's more of an obligation it owes to the
services. Like if you had lived in those communities, you should just go and see how the roads have transformed their lives. You should just go towards all of us have seen the Kiangwe, the Hakelang.
Why do you use Kiangwe?
By the same argument, the government has a profit entity to say for every infrastructure we make, what can we make out of it? Ideal candidate would be the Batin Harding Highway. We have built it not from our own resources, but from loan. So by the same token, we would have said, now because we are paying loans on this and we are paying interest, people must be charged to use it. But you are putting more burden on the population. But what you are doing, you are improving the social life. These are social projects. And that is the role of government. Government, whilst it would be ideal to make money for enhanced revenue mobilization, but it's very mindful to improve the life and livelihood of government or citizens, and not be driven by pure motive of profit. So when you look, that's why when you are analyzing such large infrastructure projects, you look at two types of returns: financial return and social return. And if sometimes most of government investments sometimes don't even have the financial return criteria, but you still go ahead and do it because of the social impact. I hope that next time.
Wanted to. The reason I brought that up is because the government is in need of generating revenue for itself. It's not like, the government has the luxury to say, we can just turn it into a social return instead of a financial return. What if you had both options, why not you try to explore both? Was that not possible? Maybe it was not possible. But the reason I brought it up is because non-tax revenue generation for the central government has been a huge challenge. Not even a minor challenge. It has been a huge one for that matter. We keep talking about tax-based economy all the time. We keep talking about it. We need to shift away. Mr. Jah even mentioned that earlier on. We need to shift away from it. How do we do that? Domestic revenue mobilization, domestic revenue generation comes in two ways as far as the central government of the Gambia goes. Tax revenue, non-tax revenue. And tax revenue generation is around billions, like 20 billions, when non-tax revenue generation is in around 5 billion. For the 2020-25, the plan is to collect tax revenue of around 21.13 billion, and then non-tax revenue 7.96 billion. And that non-tax revenue generation, the only reason it is increasing is because of the Africa 50 deal. That's the only reason. There is no other reason. In fact, if the Africa 50 deal doesn't exist, non-tax revenue generation will plummet or will go down by at least 140 million.
So that's why you think that something should be made, realize this thing.
What I want to say is the government should have the mindset of being productive in terms of revenue generation. Not even about, you do not have the luxury to even think that you turn it into social return only. You do not have the luxury. It's not even like we struggle with revenue generation. GRA is doing well. GRA is really doing well because for the first 9 months, they generated, based on Honorable Minister's budget speech, they generated 24 billion when they should have generated 23 billion at that point in time. So we're putting, and also he mentioned that, we are below the threshold when it comes to tax revenue generation. That's a good thing for the economy. But what would be much greater would be to shift from putting the burden on tax revenue generation to generating non-tax revenue. Ministry of Health is a concern even for the Honorable Minister.
Yes, sir.
Ministry of Health, when you look at their revenue generation, within 5 years they are planning to generate in the budget, planning to generate less than $5 million. And Honorable Minister mentioned RVTH, their revenue generation when they introduced the bank increased hugely to around 4.6 billion, so 4.6 million.
Yeah.
So now, obviously, what is clear here is that the Ministry of Health is actually generating more than it is reporting in the budget. And why are we allowing that? Most of these 15 revenue generating MDAs we have, most of them, they are so fond of not reporting their revenue in the budget. If you look at the budget, it's so severe that you cannot believe it. Bridge toll fees are actually our 2023, 238 billion. That's around 238 million rather, to correct. That's around 19 million every month. The bridge toll fees, this Africa 50 we are talking about, the highest. 2023. It's the highest projected for 2024 and also the highest for 2025.
If I see your point, so these other agencies that generate money.
Yes.
You are now asking the minister, like what they did with the hospital.
Yes.
Why can't they do it alongside all these
MDAs, revenue generating MDAs? They centralize
so that you will be able to realize it.
Yes.
What are you about it?
Yes.
I think we should allow him to tell us what has been done for the hospital is not been done.
I wanted to bring in my suggestion.
Okay,
for that.
So, okay, let him finish.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, the revenue generation for these revenue generating MDAs usually, I believe, based on our research, is like they personalize it. Of course, the Public Finance Act has this departmental self-raised revenue thing that probably could have caused that for them to personalize it, but they can personalize it to a degree, but it's public funds. When they collect it, I think the government can come up with a way, Honorable Minister, whereby the Consolidated Revenue Fund could serve as the only place where they remit all of these funds that they collect. There should be strict measures in place. This will help the government hugely. Strict measures in place whereby all of these revenue generating MDAs, whatever they collect, will be remitted into, or even if all of it is not remitted, but whatever they are supposed to remit will definitely be remitted. And also, not only will it be remitted, but will be reflected in the budget so that the citizens can know, oh, these are actually generating revenue. And when they know they are generating revenue, they will be able to hold them accountable and ensure that there is transparency. When the public comes in for accountability and transparency, believe me, it helps the government as much as it helps the public. So that would be my recommendation, to make sure that this remitting of the non-tax revenue from these 15 revenue generating MDAs is taken very, very seriously. I think the non-tax revenue is actually being generated, but it's just the management of it. The leakage thing probably could be the reason, that it's low.
Well, thank you very much. And I mean, he's just like reading from our lips. Okay. We appreciate your feedback, and it's spot on. And at the ministry, this is not only at the ministry, but even at cabinet level. As you know, the best way we want to work on is making sure that whatever belongs to government comes to government. And he has mentioned it, the introduction of a bank. And now even the Accountant General is working with the Ministry of Interior. Now passport fees are now paid to the bank.
Yes.
So we are on it. Work is afoot. And for each of these reform agenda, once we introduce, we've seen quantum jumps. The jumps are very, very high. And we are not resting on our laurels. But one thing is clear. Some of these non-tax revenue are backed by legislation. Like, for example, some of the tariffs, like fines.
Yes.
That's why sometimes traffic fines.
Yes.
If you go to court, the judge can only charge you what's in the law.
What's in the law.
So, and we know, we did a study on this, and we realized a number of these non-tax revenue, the base, either in the form of the regulation, gazetting them, have not been revised for years.
I see.
So in terms of things have been overtaken by event. So what we did, which we started, is we started with the revision of the fees. If you go to Foreign Affairs, attestation of documents used to be free.
Yeah.
And which, it won't hurt to pay cost recovery basis.
Yes, that's right.
That has been introduced. If you go to Justice Ministry, most of their fee levels were very old. They were not revised. So revisions have been done too. And now what we are doing, we are gazetting them. Because there's a legal process as well.
I see.
As a government, you cannot just get up and say, this is what I'm going to charge. No, you have to gazette it.
Yeah.
And people be notified of it and for it to take place.
place.
And the Accountant General is working very hard to ensure that, in fact, our plan as a government is to ensure that the issue of concept of cashiers disappear, so that people will not be there to collect public revenue. Rather, it will be either a bank or a technology of some sort. So we've started that. So that is something we are very mindful of, and the whole cabinet has taken cognizant decision on this. So that is on course.
NAWEC. What time is it? NAWEC. Only recently, NAWEC management, the Minister of Petroleum, your colleague said that we are owing Senelec and APRC billions of dollars. And I see in your subsidy, you said you're giving, NAWEC is 4 billion something. Can you
a billion.
A billion.
A billion is a lot.
So what do you think can be done with NAWEC? What are you doing?
If I have a solution to that on the spot like this,
as the man controlling our money, we want to ask you, what can we do to make sure that we are self-reliant in energy? Because the monies that have been named to be areas between us and these two cow power ship and Senelec, if this money is definitely used in our own generation, energy, probably we would be self-reliant.
I think NAWEC, every Gambian knows the legacy issues. And even part of our expenditure pressures in 2024 budget implementation. And I will repeat this. The government of the Gambia has allocated 20 million US dollars, equivalent to 1.4 billion, to help pay the areas of NAWEC. And why did we do that? To protect the population from tariff hikes. As you know, not long ago, tariff hike was done about 36%. But with these areas, if government had not come in to pay that $20 million, 1.4 billion, and this happened because we had to repropose the budget, because a national emergency. What economic management will you be talking about if there is no water? If there is no light?
What is life?
Exactly. So that's why when these emergencies come, you rise to the occasion. And the government did that consciously. But all is not lost. A lot of work is in progress. There's an energy roadmap that by 2025-27, once implemented, we believe NAWEC, because the cost pressure is what is affecting NAWEC. If you look at the cost of procuring this power, now this power, I think we need to explain.
Yeah.
This take or pay.
Yes.
If I sign up with you to supply 100 megawatt and you switch onto my system, either you build that 100 megawatts or not, you will pay me my 100 megawatts.
Because
that's what I supply.
That's what we supply.
NAWEC does go through some challenges in terms of energy loss in transmission. The energy loss in transmission. So technically, they are buying 100% of power from the independent power producers, but they are only able to build about 70 or 80%
because they could not supply what they have got.
No, the losses.
Yeah, that's what
because if you look at the grid, the network, there's a lot of loss in transmission.
Exactly.
And those are technical losses.
What do
commercial
you mean? What
losses.
I mean is that they don't have the transmission materials that can.
No, look at the transmission system. Some of them are as well
Focus on changing it. It's like they have the supply, but
Yes.
it cannot flow to you.
Oh, yes. So if you don't, you buy
Continue to pay that cost.
you pay 100.
Yeah.
But you're only collecting about 80 or because the difference is technical and commercial losses.
It's just like you taking buy when you cannot resell it.
Well,
Simply you cannot reach not entirely.
I think Mr. Jan knows something
Here
like
the
that.
option should be,
Yes.
we should not only be relying
On.
on it.
Yes.
We should look for another option like
Yes.
clean energy.
No, we're coming. That's what the energy roadmap seeks to address. It starts by focusing on renewable energy. The Jambur power station, solar farm, is 23 megawatts. Plans are afoot to increase that to 50.
So much.
Soma, already the procurement is ongoing for 50 megawatts. And another 100 megawatt will also be solar farm. So when solar farm at Soma is completed, it will be 150 megawatts. Meanwhile, we are part of the OMVG network, where we've started taking hydroelectric power energy from Guinea. And we've signed, or we can take up to 30, 40 megawatts. So we believe when all these are on stream,
And now
the cost pressure will come down.
And now
meanwhile, investment is being deployed to the transmission and distribution network. Because if for example, the conundrum NAWEC is in today, it's buying 100, but it can only receive a fraction of that 100. So just even before the operating cost, you have some losses. Absolutely. And I'm not an energy expert, but I'm sure what I'm saying is everybody knows. So these are challenges, and it is putting a lot of burden on government. And government is really shielding the population by still subsidizing the cost of electricity. This year we have paid 1.4 billion, and this has knock-on effects. Some of the sectoral allocations will be compressed as a result of these non-expected interventions. So these are some of the things, but I think a lot of effort is being deployed, and we are also looking at internal efficiencies of NAWEC, because that's another area.
Yeah, that's why I wanted. Right?
You know, we look at it holistically.
It's relevant in the room.
You know, we said NAWEC also have to look at internal efficiency.
Exactly.
All these losses, just technical losses or technical plus commercial, what can they do about them? What do they do about enhancing the procurement procedures, ensuring the fleet management, all of this? So there's a whole work. I can tell you, the president has devoted a number of his personal time on market matters. But in each of the discussion, we have looked at national interests, particularly driven by him, to say, look, we cannot increase tariff. Forget it. The government must come in here.
That would be very challenging.
Yeah, because even with the current tariff, people are
complaining. Yes. And having difficulties in
but this is what I know about it.
Okay.
I don't have a magic wand to sort it out overnight.
Slow down, gentlemen. We're running out.
Yes, well, first and foremost, on the side of NAWEC, I think internally they need to improve a lot. First, those who do meter reading, you go to people's houses or compounds, you read their meters in their absence. They don't even know how much has been read. And at times now they accumulate bills and come and give it to people that is more than your salary. How do you expect them to pay that? They bring 3 months bill, tell you for instance 15,000, 20,000. When there are a lot of bus pipes in so many locations, it's like now it's not addressing those type of needs. You take your bill and tell them, no, I did not use it. They say, okay, we made a mistake. Let's look and provide you with the right amount that you have bought. Like these internal issues, I believe it's not under your purview, but they need to engage now in this, because proficiency and efficiency is very key. Well, I want to highlight on the last point that you talk about, that is domestic resource mobilization. I think government needs to explore and enhance it. We have these resources that Mr. Cham highlighted. Let's take fisheries and other resources, for example. Instead of licensing like the EU and others, they're making a lot of use of it. How about us? Why can't we empower our own, and it will generate income? It will help a lot. Now, tourism also, it needs to be more lucrative, more attractive, because we know tourism is one of the backbone. But what is there to attract people to come to the Gambia? Like this site visits, this ancient or historical site. How do we empower it? Boost up more about culture. It will, attract people outside, that they can come and spend the money, and that will be also another lift or another boost for our economy. We need to look at such parastatals that we know that once it is explored and enhanced, we will generate income. And this will help to reduce the loan aspect that we are more focused on externally, even, domestically. Looking into generating more funds is more of production and consumption. I believe that will also help the economy. We focus more on that. Like, for instance, if we produce more rice, that is what we're trying to attain through Dodou Jah. How can that be increased so that it will bring down the level of exportation of rice, where we're spending billions? If we're able to produce at home and consume it, I believe this will help the government at a very large scale.
Well,
your ministry
he hit it right on the head. And that's why, if you look at our revenue performance of recent, it has really increased. I'm sure you have the statistics.
Yes.
By how our revenue performance has increased. But when it comes to revenue, we're also mindful of its impact on the population. And really, because we don't want to overtax. That's why if you look at even the budget pronouncement, apart from what is classified as sin tax, like gambling, alcohol, cigarette, corporation income. In fact, a tax relief has been granted to the citizens. The first 24,000 of any income used to be what was exempted. Now we've elevated that to 36,000. So that means technically government has given the citizen 12,000 extra tax-free income for the next fiscal year. So these are all part of measures, because you have to also balance as much as we need every money, every dollar we need. But also you have to look at its impact on the population. So that's why I say it's a people-centered budget.
Good.
To understand what people...
Finally, we want to give you the opportunity, Mr. Minister, to highlight any other thing you want to your life.
No, I just thank you and the audience, and all I'm trying to say, we are engaging the citizenry at large.
Well, I have an opportunity to continue for another 15 minutes. So, so I will give the floor now to the Mr. Dibba. So engage with
I'm sort of fair with it. I can go. No, I want to find two almost the government.
I know.
And I think this type of discourse is welcome. If you have like this Africa 50,
absolutely,
it need not take the form that it took to come and accuse government of not knowing what we do.
Exactly.
All it has taken is a request. You sign this agreement. This is our understanding of the agreement. This is what we discovered. Any response? Ask. We have information officer at the ministry, and it's a public service. There's nothing private about what we do.
Maybe you could have also published it much earlier than you did.
No, actually, in general, if you look at it, most of our agreements, even if you look at all our donor partners, if you go to their websites, they do publish these agreements. Any interaction with the fund, with the bank, they always publish with the ADB, they publish our engagements with them. So we did not see, I think one issue we learned from this Africa 50 is the communication aspect. Because we presume certain information was a given when it was not. And most, even our counterpart was not better understood. Initially, the first rumor I had was, he signed with, they mentioned somebody in Senegal. Then the next thing I had was, they mortgaged the bridge. So I think we tried our best. Myself and Honorable Silla, we had a number of press conferences. But we believe because it's so new, we could have done more communication. More clarity could have been brought to the table for people to understand. Because at the end of the day, these agreements will outlive us.
Absolutely.
The bridge will outlive us. So, and we have no any vested interest in this, or we had is national interest. So if you're working for people, and that's what is public service, then their views matter. But you can only respond to views that and which is communicated properly. It doesn't have to take like a sort of like a rumor or so for us to react. All those are open. We never had a request and we refused to respond to it.
Let me go. But I think to solve it, you have highlighted that you'll start to dispatch your staff to the media and engage the people in our national languages. I think that would be additional. Because information dissemination.
In fact, I promise to do something in this one.
Maybe we can do it. 10 minutes we can do it. But I want to go to something that's raised there. Okay. Why do you think, Mr. Minister, it is justifiable to increase the breast meet the people's store from 30 to 45 million? Because many people said.
I think we discussed this.
No, we have not.
We've been able this. I've explained this several.
Shortly before you came, it was here. We were discussing. We said, well, you know, you are a technocrat.
All ministers are politicians.
No. You can't just be.
No. I think of course by my training.
But why do you think the president will take $45 million to go to Basel and come back?
No, all I've mentioned it, I've clarified it amply. You see, we should be mindful of constitutional provisions. The Constitution says at least twice.
Yes.
It says at least twice.
And it has been carried once.
Yes, it is done once. No.
And they say once.
No, it's right. It has been. Look.
Yeah, but what does it have when you spend all that money in one?
No, I'm explaining. In fact, what I'm explaining, next year, 2025, is going to be a heavy year because a number of presidential projects are going to be launched, like the Hakalang, the Kiang West, all may be ready for opening. You get my point. But even there and then, technically, the Constitution says twice. So when you are budgeting on prudent basis, you should budget for two. If he only makes one, what is not spent will be a savings in the budget. You understand? It doesn't mean that if you say 45 or exactly 45, it could be more, it could be less. But what we are saying, this is a constitutional provision which is there, has been there, and we are just following that process. It doesn't mean that we are unconscious of the cost implications. No, we are. But also we are conscious of the realities on the ground. Because when the president moves, it's not like you and me moving. But the security, the logistics, it's not an easy thing.
But what do you make of it also taking a political form where people bring in NPP banners and stuff? So the opposition are saying you are using a backdoor to finance the NPP campaign.
Well, you know what? The president has been appointed through a ballot.
You can hold the money and say, Mr. President, I want you.
I wish I could. I wish I could.
If I see NPP, I will.
If I see the most important thing is you cannot divorce any elected person from politics.
Exactly. That I agree.
I mean, it's
the actual politics of it was started by Jammeh himself. No, looking at during Jawara and Jammeh, there's a difference. People listen. I mean the actual. The name started to change to meet the people's store during Jammeh, not far, but because even that Jawara was doing politics. Yes, I quite agree with the president. Yes, I quite agree because we are in a political office too. You're in a political office. What I want to say about this is, if we want it to change or to take a different dimension, we need two things. We need to revisit the constitutional provision. It must be looked at thoroughly. Where the disadvantages are, it should be adjusted. Where the gains are,
it was needed to be scrapped in the 2020.
No, you can scrap it. You can scrap it. Wait, let me just. You need even the advantages. It needs to be well defined. Well defined in a sense, you will know what your restrictions are. But if you provide, if you make it a law and you leave it open, it's very difficult to say, why are you doing this? I would say the Constitution has told me to do so without telling me exactly how. And again, I think the mode of operation can be changed. For example, you have governors in every region. They can simplify and make it very easy for cabinet. Let's say, for instance, being the governor, Gambia is demarcated. You know, within the region, the constituencies that are there, the ward, the sub-ward, it's either two ways. The governor goes to them, put them together, know what most of their needs and challenges are. This can be documented and sent to cabinet. Or you call them, all of them together, you'll be able to listen to them keenly, categorically get what they need.
Who will take the credit for it? The governor of Ghana or the president?
When we get that and we take it to cabinet. Now, cabinet having this in front of them, they will be well prepared before they go to the top. Knowing exactly what are the needs of the people and where to begin, you'll be able to prioritize that. But the way and manner it is, even if another government comes, the noise would be too much, but they'll continue the same trend. And don't be surprised, they can even ask for more from this 45 million. They might increase it to more than that.
It has been suggested that what you actually ended up spending, is more than what's in budget.
No, but I think you see, when you look at financing transaction, which is guided by a constitution, finance becomes subsidiary. Because if the president is supposed to go on a meet the people tour, can I tell him, no, Your Excellency, you cannot go because there's no money?
But don't use politics. You can say, don't use politics.
When it is a constitutional provision.
Exactly.
Yeah, but when you say you can hold NPP rallies.
In fact, I remember, if you look at, I have attended a number of rallies and I spoke on some of them.
Oh, really?
Yes. I didn't speak. I spoke on a podium.
Yes. On official, not on political.
No, I spoke as a minister. I spoke at the rally in Soma. That's my area.
That's your area.
Yes.
And then you will put them give them some money for
it's on YouTube and they listen to it. Clear.
Okay.
By virtue of being a president, your entire raison d'etre is political.
Of course.
So to me, anybody telling me a presidential action can be divorced of politics.
But the Senegalists have
different constitutions.
No, yeah. And have a system change. It's a system change.
No, but I'm explaining. I'm explaining to you. I'm not holding brief for anybody.
Yeah.
But all I'm saying, when you are comparing nations, you have to compare like with like. To compare how a country A is administered against country B, you must make sure that the building blocks, the constitutionality, the constitution, the laws are alike. You get my point.
Yes.
That's why the only area we have governance is a good governance.
No, but there are exceptions here. It depends what the law provides.
If this was not in the constitution,
yes,
we would have no mandate to put it even in the budget.
I agree. I know.
We would have no mandate. In fact, at that time, then the onus would be on us to say, well, this expenditure is not.
But the people recommended for you to scrap it in the 2020. You brought it back in 2020.
No, I don't know constitution.
No, in 2020 it was recommended it should be scrapped.
Who recommended to be scrapped?
It wasn't. I mean, the people.
The 2020.
No, what I'm saying, until that comes into force, we apply what is available.
Yes, there's a political advantage. I
can by what should be done.
Yes,
within the parameters of
without you dictating. You can only suggest. You can only make suggestions.
What about the Ports Authority, Mr. Minister? Because whereas a lot of people and even the ports management argued, and a lot of people agreed that the ports, in its very nature, is losing a lot of business because of its incapacity to accommodate, the volume of traffic that comes in. And people saw the Turkey company, this agreement with the Turkish company as a huge opportunity for us to, one, make the port more efficient and in fact get, a new port, a completely new port in Sanyang. And then of course the land that's currently been used by the ports will also be given back to the GPA. People still criticize the agreement, saying it didn't take care of the interests of the country. Well, how would you defend it?
Well, I think this political plurality, and it's very critical. Anything that government does, somebody can have a dissenting view. But I think the entire transaction was properly vetted. We as a government, believe that the PPP concession that is being signed up and is being implemented by the Turkish is for the good of the country, because I think that's where call a perspective matters. Like we elaborate here on aspect of Africa 50, which actually brought better understanding and clarity to it. Equally, the same could be available for this one. That look, government will not willingly, not that I am aware of, willingly go into a transaction on the full understanding that the whole country will be disadvantaged. Because that's not the role of government. Government is advancement of the country and the people. So unless things happen, like you plan, something else happen, but I don't know why any conscious government would go into a transaction knowing fully well at the end of the day I am worse off and my citizens are worse off.
Which will come back at you.
Yes, exactly. So don't forget, this concession is to upgrade and make sure that the congestion at the port is minimized by bringing a more efficient private sector operator, as well as a deep sea port in Sanya. So in one concession, you have efficiency improvement in your existing port, and you'll have a deep sea port in Sanya.
And dry ports in Kaura.
I mean, all the ancillary. So, and again, this is where bringing the private sector to managing public infrastructure. I think that is very, very important. And it's new. So normally, that's why anything, oh, no, you are selling all our assets. No, we're not selling.
Well, they said you will eventually sell the whole country.
No, I have not sold any assets. Not under my watch. I don't know any public asset that has been put on the chopping block now, as we speak, and the transaction is concluded. I do know, of course, like Gamcell is actually up for privatization. But apart from that, even that transaction has not even concluded. It's not started.
Do you have plans for the airport? Because they say
no, you see, I think understanding, even if you look at Heathrow Airport, it's not owned by the British.
Definitely, yes.
I mean, these are people that we go to, and they're advanced countries, and these are the leaders in development, we believe. They don't own their airport. Their airport is in private hands.
That's true.
Watching one of the medias, I think it was yesterday, somebody jokingly asked a question, hope they will not privatize the National Assembly.
I was explaining, this is not a problem.
Africa 27.
No, but really, everything that we do as a government, at the end of the day, is national interest and the interest of the people. But there is nothing that accrues to any one of us as private returns, as benefit. Because like in the Africa 50 transaction, everything is multilateral. It's not a private company. If the staff, it's like any development organization. So it's like above board.
I think the challenge is like what you are doing today.
Yes.
Engaging the media and breaking it down. It's always very important.
We notice that.
And sometimes the challenge with Gambians, I would say, is the number of years it takes. 25 years, or you tell them 50 years. They say, what? They're looking at even the lifespan of that government.
No, but this, if you want to plan better, your planning horizon must be long range.
Exactly.
If you plan to tomorrow alone, I'm sorry to
you don't break it down for them. They find it difficult to understand. And mostly it is left with social media, where people can speculate and come up with so much misinformation.
Either we are here or not, this agreement is on one trust. We have not signed with a private party.
Dibba, you have been silent.
We've signed.
You have been silent for long.
No, I think let's conclude with you. All right. I think so far so good. Yes.
I wanted to bring light to the development budget, Honorable Minister. Based on our research, we found that there are 16 major development projects in the development budget that are worth at least 500 million each. And I personally believe that if we get all the funds for all of those major development projects, and we allocate the funds, we utilize them efficiently and effectively, and we do not mismanage or misdirect the funds, we make sure there is proper management, proper monitoring, proper accountability of all of the funds, and they go into the right projects the right way, I think we can change history for the Gambia. I truly believe this, honestly. So what I would plead with you and the Ministry of Finance would be to make sure that other projects are also important, honestly, but those 16 major development projects come into play and they are implemented. Of course, there will be challenges and all that, but I believe if they the MDAs, they are responsible for putting those development budget. You mentioned one thing about sometimes they don't implement, so they do not get the funds. And that is also a major challenge. So if they, with proper, of course, budgeting through the budget committee and proper projection, I believe that whatever is put in the 2025 budget can be implemented to a greater degree, to a greater extent. And if that happens for those 16 major development projects, I think that will definitely benefit the country and the economy at large. What I would plead with you is to make sure that monitoring and transparency is definitely ensured with respect to those 16 development projects.
Oh, thank you.
And that's finally.
No, thank you very much. And this is very much at the anchor of what we do. Like you said, they're in the budget, they are approved, and commitments are with the development partners, but it's execution. And I can tell you, development partners are watching closely in terms of project implementation. If the projects are not implemented, they don't disperse. So definitely, I think this is a clarion call for all project managers, project implementation unit, to know that they are implementing project for the Gambians, not just for their own career, but they're implementing project for Gambians, and it's part of government development. So just the funding, there's nothing called donor funds per se, because these donors are partners in development. Absolutely. This is just like, you want to do this, let me help you. The area that I'm helping you, leave that to me. Then you focus on areas that you are not getting help for.
Exactly.
So implementing those projects are very, very important. Yes.
Honorable Seedy Keita, the Minister of Finance, thank you very much for being on the brunch and for giving a lot of good information and clarifications on the budget you presented. And Dodou Jah, thank you very much for being on the brunch too, and Lamin Dibba, and earlier Demba Jawo too. To all of this, on behalf of everybody, we wish you a very good Saturday, and of course a very good weekend overall. The brunch will be back next week. Until then, Lamin Cham wishing you have a good
Islamic microfinance is becoming an increasingly popular mechanism for poverty alleviation, especially for developing countries around the world. This microfinance service adheres to the principles of Islam as a form of social responsibility. Yona Islamic Microfinance is the Islamic microfinance of choice in the Gambia, trustworthy and reliable. At Yona Islamic Microfinance, we provide savings products, current accounts, financing products in conformity with Islam. In addition, Yona Islamic Microfinance also offers local and international remittances, takaful fund, management of zakat, management of awqaf, trading and investment, and building of strategic partnerships to bring financial services to the doorstep of the poor with donor projects, madrasas, youth organizations, women groups, and farmer organizations. Make a choice with Yona Islamic Microfinance today. For more information on Yona Islamic Microfinance, call 377-2151 or 9832-151 or visit Yona head office at Tipa Garage, Bakote, or visit any Yona branch located countrywide near you.
Planning to have an uninterrupted electricity and water supply from solar energy in the Gambia and beyond? Worry no more, because Solar Enterprise will provide you with the solutions at reasonable cost. We have experienced personnel who can install and advise you about your electricity and water supply with a warranty period. We have good quality solar products from North America and Europe. We provide services and sell products to individuals, organizations, institutions, private offices, communities, and government. These products are solar panels, batteries, charge controllers, inverters, water pump, water heaters, freezers, submersible pumps, and general solar accessories. Visit our stores at 48 Kairaba Avenue and Brusubi Highway, or you can call us on 7657 479 980 8483 340 9400 or 635 9906.
Jamano Money Transfer Bureau de Change, your go-to option when it comes to money transfer. With Jamano, you can send money from anywhere in the world to your family and loved ones in the Gambia and be sure the funds will be delivered to them within the shortest time possible. For your convenience, funds sent through Jamano Money Transfer can be picked from all the banks and multiple other financial institutions, including Ajib Bank, Trust Bank, GT Bank, Mega Bank, Basic Bank, Reliance Financial Services, and Approved Services. Visit our head office at Brusubi opposite AfricMed next to Trust Bank Limited or email us at info@jamanomt.com. You can as well call us on 310-3050 or 310-3051 or yet still 733-0688. Our opening hours are 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Saturday and 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Sunday. Jamano Money Transfer, your most trusted money transfer service where customer satisfaction is paramount. When you think of a simple, fast, and reliable money transfer, think Jamano Money Transfer.
Agada.
Mbijan aganyadi.
Albaka.
Mbaka important.
Yo, nga transfer la sto.
Ya transfer la sto.
Ha, code nyinji.
Okay. Nsila ID soto.
Ah, sa soto. Sorry. Agada.
Mbijan bro.
Albaka.
Mbaka.
Bara alla service o tariya.
Ah,
mbare mo ki janna nun kunu bara tariya.
Ah, janno mi yona forest de bureau. Gambia tonkon na no mbari ya bere. Ha. Birim koyna fo kato.
Bari si kodo kino kato ni fo bolong blabe to.
56 branches mola sota Gambia jam.
Ha?
Ha. Gambia kono anin Gambia bantala bankol. Nka kono kiya bere to. Kodo sifa fo falindiro fo nyaadi lafta memmen na kodi to poto nin kodi maraw. Jannom number 1 di nyonta. Andum fana nata anoda enterprise sotale. Wolam nyindi ko domorol fana kol fana be firale de dadi ma nin domorol din fana be teat. Gambia dawda yalo ma fa kendol sotale je.
Ha e wo moyo diat ha.
Apelenta
ni wo ka ni lafta nyelen kendol e binaji.
Yalo bukani la ko la baraka ba.
Yalo ndel chosano lo.
Abaraka.